People often ask me for recommendations on an affordable daily integrated bracelet watch that holds up against the higher end pieces, because we can't all afford an AP Royal Oak, a Vacheron 222 or a Patek Nautilus. Well, today I have a great pick for you to look at. It's slim, it's finished properly, the build feels tight, and the dial is unique and interesting. I'll also show you what it gets right, where it makes compromises, and then compare it to the PRX just to give you a general range of the value. With that said, let's get into the review of the Veneziano Arsenal, starting with on wrist. Now this is a 40mm integrated design with a short 44mm lug to lug and a wild overall thickness under 9mm. 8.95mm including crystal, which is very slim for an automatic watch. And I think that thinness is what really lets it wear sleek, comfortable, and fit under a cuff perfectly, and really does add that extra level of just daily wearability and comfortability. Then there's the finishing. We have vertical brushing that is straight and consistent, polished accents that are tight and controlled, and the transitions are sharp and clean. Run a finger on it, look at it close up, do anything with it, and you will see that it definitely holds up against higher end watches and just generally looks more expensive than it is. The tolerances around the bezel and end links are also snug, which lets it sit well and look homogeneous and well designed. Now the dial here is a bit of a party trick. It's Musso black, I believe that's how you pronounce it, which is a type of black pigment that absorbs 99.4% of light, which basically just lets it be a black void on your wrist. This lets the hands almost float, it's minimalistic, dramatic, and just generally different from the usual sunburst crowd. But I think that it's unique, I think it stands out, and I think it's a nice option to have, especially for minimalists, though I will say, obviously, no indices. If you have an issue with having no indices on your watch, they do have other dial variants. They have a really nice Côte de Genève style, sort of guilloche-ish dial, and then they also have my personal favourite of their collection, which is the Aventurine stone dial. Then as for specs, you've got good old sapphire crystal with decent AR coating, so that you can keep that deep black effect without the glare washing it out. Now the water resistance is only 50 meters, but that's what allows it to be just so unbelievably thin. And to make up for it, it does have a screw down crown, which also has very nice action that isn't gritty whatsoever. Now the watch does actually ship on this, the integrated rubber strap with a steel end link rather than on the bracelet, which I think is really nice. It's more modern, it's more sporty, it's more dressed down, and it gives it a lot more versatility, and just a lot of people like a rubber strap these days. That's as simple as it is. However, I do think that a lot of the value from this watch comes from that Canova Concept integrated bracelet, and I would personally say you need to get it if you're getting one of these watches, but it is an extra €100. Inside, the Veneziano also uses the Miyota 9029, which is a slim, no-date, high-beat caliber that's hand-windable and hacking with a 42-hour power reserve. Most impressively with this movement, it's only 3.9mm thick. That is what lets the watch be so thin and wear so comfortably. As a general movement, it has a smooth sweep, it's reliable, it's very serviceable, and it's a sensible choice for any thin automatic watch. Although it is good to mention that the rotor on it can actually be a little loud at times, so if you shake your hand, you might hear it. Price-wise, this model sits at just barely over the PRX Powermatic, around the €800 mark, although again, that's with the integrated rubber strap here. This specific dial variation I think needs to come with the bracelet, which is an extra €100, which brings it up to about 900, but the normal Côte de Genève dials, which are technically more impressive than this one with the indices and that comes on the bracelet, is I still believe that €800, which really does show value. But I mean, for what you're getting, a thin automatic with an interesting dial, a sapphire crystal, an integrated bracelet build, as well as really good finishing and build quality, the price just makes perfect sense. And to give all of you an easy to understand way of seeing the value here, I've decided to compare it to the PRX, which, yes, I am not saying anything bad about the PRX, it is a great watch, but I just think that this outdoes it in quite a few places, and of course, if you prefer this design, it's the better choice to go for. Starting off with wearability. The Venezianico, first of all, drapes better and at 40mm has a 44mm lug to lug, whereas the 40mm PRX has a 51.5mm lug to lug. The PRX is also 11mm thick, whereas the Venezianico Arsenal is only 8.95 as we've said earlier, which does let it wear better, as well as the fact that I do generally think the bracelet and the strap on this are both more comfortable than the bracelet or the strap for the PRX. As for specs, they both have sapphire crystals, but the PRX does have 100 meters of water resistance, when the Arsenal only has 50, which is good to note. However, contrary to what you might think, the Venezianico has debatably better resistance to submerging in water because it does actually have a screw down crown, whereas the PRX doesn't. That aside, the Venezianico has slightly better build quality overall and much better finishing, also better crown action, and though this particular dial variation has no loom, the dial variants with the loom are on par if not slightly above the PRX. Movement wise, you could debate for either side. I think it's very close, as both are 4 Hz, both are about equally accurate, both are easily serviceable, but the PRX does have 80 hours of power reserve compared to the Arsenal's 44. One thing that is good to note here, however, is that specifically in the Tissot PRX, for some reason, it has a plastic escapement, which means that it's slightly less reliable, and also means that the Miyota 9029 is easier to service and just a little bit more reliable here. As for the bracelet, the Arsenal is very clearly the winner here. Much more premium, high-end feeling clasp, better tolerances, better finishing, better build quality, and in my opinion, a more attractive look on the eyes. And then there's the aesthetic, which is subjective. However, something good to note that not many people who know the PRX actually know is that the PRX isn't an original design. It is actually a Rolex homage of the 17000, also known as the Oyster Quartz, the 1530 before that, and the Beta 21 Quartz way before even that, whereas the Venezianico Arsenal is Italian made and fully designed in-house, not taking any notes too much from another watch. Something good to note as well is that of course people buy for different reasons. I'm not going to judge you. Personally, I think buy the watch to wear it and to enjoy it, not to flex, but some people do like to flex, and for that reason, Tissot PRX, mainstream appeal and brand heritage, whereas the Venezianico Arsenal has none of that. So if you are buying a watch specifically for that flex factor, this isn't going to do it for you. With that said, objectively, I'd definitely say the Arsenal beats the PRX out in terms of just general quality, though it is very slightly more expensive and of course doesn't have the brand prestige. At the end of the day, the Venezianico Arsenal offers objectively great value, specs and build quality for the general price range. It has a classy design, strong finishing and build quality, it is convincingly thin for an automatic, and it has a dial that's genuinely special. It does wear slightly big for my taste. I think on bracelet it's just a bit big for me, whereas on the strap it's about okay. But a 37-38mm version would have been nice for me. I just prefer watches that wear a bit smaller. But again, not an issue with the watch itself, just with my own preferences. And if a 40mm watch is the right size for you, I think it's a very good option to go for. But where do you land? Do you like the watch? Do you think it outdoes the PRX? Or would you rather have the good old? Tell me below. I'd be interested to see just how many people side with the micro brands against the big guy. And with that said, never forget, time keeps ticking, so use the time you have wisely.